Hello everyone, I'm Chandra Prakash Bhavana and today I'm sharing an interview at a company called Clover Infotech and the company location is Mumbai and the interview date was the May 18, 2026. So the first question they asked me, string to array function in PHP. So there is a function called explode. So explode splits a string into an array using a delimiter. So syntax is array explode. Okay, let us suppose there is one $str variable apple comma banana comma orange dollar array equal to explode and then within the bracket double colon comma dot str then print r dollar array. So the output will be array 0 equal to apple, 1 equal to banana, 2 equal to orange. So explode function is string to array. Second question they asked me, user has issued in registration form. So what will you do? So first I would try to reproduce the issue myself using the same registration form and inputs that the user reported. Then I would check step by step. So first is front end side. So I would open browser developer tools, check the console for any JavaScript errors and look at the network tab to see what a request is going and what response is coming back. Second, in the backend side, I would check the Apache and the PHP error logs, inspect the incoming post data and trace the flow from controller to model to see the exactly where it is breaking. Third is the database side. So I would verify whether the insert query is executed properly, check for issues like duplicate emails, null field violation or any database connection failures. Fourth, third party service. If registration involves email, OTP, SMS, verification or any external API, I would check whether those services are responding correctly or throwing an error. So now if I am not able to reproduce the issue myself, I would reach out to the user and ask for the exact error message or screenshot, the steps they followed and their browser and device details. So once I identify the root cause, I would fix it in a staging environment first, test all registration scenarios thoroughly, and then deploy the production, making sure no existing user data or flow is impacted. The third question they ask me, how do you create an API? Okay, so to create an API, so we have some structure approach. First, I define the purpose, what the API will do, what endpoints are needed, and which HTTP methods, either it's get, post, put, or delete. Second, I set up the structure. So in core PHP, I create a clean folder structure like encoding for API and the insert that config that is for the DB connection and the controllers that is logic model for the DB queries and index.php that is the entry points. Third is I create the endpoint, for example, a registration API. So post slash API slash register. Fourth one is I write the controller logic, validate incoming data, process business logic, call the model of database connections and return JSON response. Example header content type application slash JSON. So $data equal to JSON decode, file get contents, PHP input true. Now the condition is if empty $data email, then echo JSON encode status false, message email is required and exit. Call model to insert user, $result equal to $user model register $data. So echo JSON encode status true, message registered successfully. Fifth, I return structured JSON response always. So JSON status equal to true, message equal to user registered successfully and data equal to null. Sixth is I secure the API, validate and sanitize all inputs, use API key or JWT token for authentication and always use HTTPs. Seventh, I test using Postman, test success case, validation failure, duplicate entry, and server error scenarios. In my experience on the GEM project, I have built PHP based REST APIs handling request validation, Solr search integration, and structured JSON responses. So they asked me some follow-up questions. Get versus post. So get fetches data, post creates send data. REST, stateless API using HTTP methods, return JSON. How to secure API? So JWT API input sanitization and HTTPS. Status code 404, that is unauthorized, token missing or invalid. The question number 4, they ask me what all things you need keep in mind while creating an API. So while creating an API, I keep these things in the mind. So first is the input validation. Every incoming request data must be validated before processing. Check requires fields, data types, and length limits. Never trust user input directly. Second, proper HTTP methods. So get for the fetch data, post for the create data, put and patch for the update data, and delete for the delete data. Third is the structured JSON response, that is always return a consistent response format. So JSON status true, code 200, message success, and data done. Okay. Fourth one is the correct HTTP status codes. So 2000 is success, 201 is created, 400 is bad request, 401 is unauthorized, 404 is not found, and 500 is server error. Fifth, authentication and authorization. Secure the API using the JWT tokens or API keys. Make sure the user is authenticated and has permission to access that endpoints. Sixth, error handling. Handles all exception properly. Never expose raw PHP or DB errors in the response. So this is a security risk. Seventh is a sanitization. So sanitize all inputs to prevent SQL injection and XSS attacks. Eighth is the performance. Avoid unnecessary database queries. Use pagination for large data sets and use caching where possible. In GEM project, we used Apache Solr for fast search instead of heavy database queries. Ninth is the API versioning. Always version your API like API/v1/register, API/v2/register. So future changes do not break existing clients. 10th is the documentation. Document every endpoint, what parameter is accepted, and what response it returns. Make it easy for front-end team and other developer. So in short, a good API should be secure, consistent, well structured, and easy to understand. So they asked me in the follow-up that what is the JWT? So that is the JSON Web Tokens used for the stateless authentication. Another question they asked me the pagination, returning data in chunks, page 1, page 2, etc. Another follow-up question they ask me why versioning, so to avoid the breaking old clients with API changes. Also they ask me how to prevent SQL injection here. So for the prepared statement PDO in the PHP. Question number 5, they asked me types of an API. So based on accessibility, that is the most common. Public API, that is the open API. So available to everyone, used by the external developers. Example, Google Maps API or Twitter API. Second is the private API, that is the internal API, used only inside an organization and not exposed publicly. For example, company payroll API used internally. Third is the partner API, shared with the specific business partners, require authentication and agreement. Example, payment gateway API shared with the merchants. Fourth is the composite APIs. So combine multiple API calls into one request. For example, one request returns user plus order plus payment details. Second is based on the architecture style. So REST API, that is the most popular. Uses the HTTP methods like the get, post, put, delete. So data mostly in the JSON, and example get / employee. Second is the SOAP API. Use XML, more strict and secure, used in banking government systems. Third is the GraphQL API. So client request only needed data, single endpoints, example employee salary name salary. Fourth is the gRPC API. So this is a high performance, uses protocol buffers used in the microservices. Third is the based on communication. Web API accessible over internet using the HTTP. Library API function provided by programming libraries. Example Java Collections API. Third is the operating system APIs used to interact with the operating system resources. For example Windows API. So the summary is APIs can be public, private, partner or composite based on the access. Architecturally, common types are REST, SOAP, GraphQL and gRPC. So the quick table is public, that is a Google Map API, private internal HR API, partner payment gateway partner API, REST JSON plus HTTP methods, SOAP XML based banking APIs, GraphQL flexible data queries and gRPC fast microservices APIs. Sixth question they asked me, authentication and authorization. So authentication is a process of verifying the identity of a user. It checks who the user is. So steps for authentication: login. A user provides their credential, that is the username and password. So verification, the system checks if the provided credential matched stored credential in database or third party authentication service. Token generation, that is the optional. Upon successful login, a system may generate a token, that is the JWT, to maintain the session or facilitate API access. For example, a user logs in using their username and password. The system verifies the credential and grant access if the information is correct. For example, in Laravel, auth : attempt, email equal to request email, password equal to request password. Second is the authorization. Authorization is the process of determining what the user can do after what they authenticate. It controls the permission and access levels assigned to the user. Steps of authorization: permission checks. After authentication, the system checks if the authenticated user has permission to perform a specific action. Example, view a page, modify a resource, etc. Role and permission. In many systems, role admin editor user defines which actions are allowed. Permission specify the specific actions that a create, delete, edit that a user can perform. Example, a user may be authenticated, but they might only be authorized to view their own profile, not other users' profile. A manager role may allow for editing posts, while a guest role may only allow viewing. So example in Laravel, if auth : user can edit post, then perform the action. So here is a table for the authorization and authentication. So the first is the authentication. Definition: verify who the user is. Authorization: determine what the user can do. Focus: identity, login credential in authentication. Authorization: permission, roles, abilities. Third, authentication ensures the user is who they claim to be, perform actions, resource or perform actions. Authorization ensures the user has the right to access resources or perform actions. Example, authentication: user logging in with the username password. Authorization: user being assigned role like admin, editor, etc. So the practical uses: in a typical web app, authentication could occur first, that is login in, and authorization would follow to ensure that the authentication user has correct permission to access a specific resource. So they asked me authentication and authorization in the context of the API. In APIs, authentication and authorization work together to secure every request. So authentication in API, who is making this request? So every API request must prove its identity. This is done through first API key, a static key sent to the in the request header. Authorization API key ABC123XYZ. Second, JWT token. After login, server generates a token. Client sends that token in every API request. Authorization, that is the bearer EYZ dot dot dot. Server validates the token on every request, checks signatures, expiry, and user data inside payload. Third, Auth 2.0, used for the third-party login like Google or Facebook, returns an access token which is then used for API calls. Authorization in API, what is this request allowed to do? So after authentication, every API endpoint checks permission. So role-based access control, that is the RBAC, that is the role-based access controller. In PHP, if user role not equal to admin, so echo JSON encode. Status false, code 403, message access denied, exit. So endpoint level permission checks. Some endpoints are public, some requires authentication, some require the specific roles. Okay. So the endpoints get/API/product. So access level is public. Post/API/order. So for that we need the authenticated user. Delete/API/product. So we need admin only. So flow in every API request. So request comes in, each token present? No. So we'll return flow not one unauthorized. If yes, token is valid. If again each token valid is no, then flow not one unauthorized. If yes, does user have permission? If no, flow not forbidden. If yes, process the request 200 success. So in my project, that was the GEM project, every API request was authenticated using the JWT token validation, and the role-based checks were applied before processing any operation like product listing, order management, or admin actions. Question number 7, page loading authorization. Here is a short interview ready answer. Page loading authorization means before a page loads, we verify whether the user has permission to access that page. Flow is simple. Front end, check if token exists. If not, redirect to the login immediately. So JavaScript, if not local storage dot get item token, then window dot location dot href equal to /login. Backend, even if front end passes, backend middleware validate the token and checks user role in the every request. So PHP, if validation not validate token $token, then HTTP request code 401, that is exit. If $user role not equal to admin, then HTTP response code 403, that is then exit. So based on the result and action, no token, so redirect to login. Invalid token 401 unauthorized. Valid but not permission 403 forbidden. Valid plus permitted, page load successfully. Most important point, front-end check alone is never enough. Backend authorization is always mandatory. In my GEM project, every protected page had middleware that validate token and role-based role before any data was returned. Question number 8, how do you find application loading issue or database issue? So, when a user reports that the application is slow or not loading, so there is a step-by-step approach. First, check whether it is application issue or database issue. Okay. Open browser network tab, dev tools, and see API response. If is it slow, is it returning error like 500 or 504? if the page loading but data not coming. Application leading issue. How I find it? Check Apache error log. Bash tail-f where log Apache to error.log. So there you can see the error. Check if server is responding. High CPU or memory usage, too many concurrent requests, any infinite loop or heavy process running. Checks PHP errors, syntax errors, fatal errors, memory limit exceeded, php.ini, memory limit, max execution time. Okay, so database issue, how I find it? Check database connection first. If $not die, DB connection failed. MySQL dot underscore connect underscore error. Check slow queries. Enable MySQL slow query. Show variable like slow query log. Check query performance. Explain select star from user where email equal to whatever email you want to put. Check DB server. Too many connections. Table logged. Index missing or heavy queries. So how I differentiate both? Okay, if symptom is page not loading at all, then there is an issue of the server Apache down. Page loads but data missing, that is the DB connection issue. API response very slow, that is slow DB query. 500 error, PHP or application error, and 504 timeout, DB or third party API timeout. So in my project experience on GEM and CSMS portal, when performance issues occurred, I always checked Apache logs first. That enable query logging to find slow or unindexed queries. In Solr based search, I checked the Solr admin panel for slow queries and cache hit ratio. Also, they asked me some follow-up question. What is explained in MySQL? So show query execution plan. That is helps find missing indexes. How to fix slow query? Add proper index, optimize join, avoid select star. What is connection pooling? Reusing DB connections instead of creating new every time. Solr slow. Check query time in Solr admin. Optimize filter cache. Question number 9, they asked me, you have to write in a single query average, max and minimum salary. So the query is select AVG salary as average salary, comma, max salary as maximum salary, min salary as minimum salary from employees. The next question, that is the question number 10, they ask me triggers. So a trigger is code associated with insert, update and delete operation, that is the IUD. So trigger is a stored procedure in database which automatically invoke whenever a special event in the database happened or in database occurs. For example, a trigger can be invoked when a row is inserted into a specific table or when certain table columns are being updated. So let's create a very simple example to demonstrate how a MySQL trigger works. So we'll create a two tables. First is the user data. So first is the user, second is the user log. The users contains a table to store user data. User log, a table to log any update made to the user table. So the users table store user ID, username and email. The user log table stores log about email changes, specifically the user ID, old and new email values, and the timestamp when the changes was made. When the changes were made. Step 2, create a trigger. Now we'll create a before update trigger that will log any changes to the email fields in the users table. So create the trigger delimiters. Create trigger before user update. Before update on users for each rows begin. Check if the email is being updated. So if old.email not equal to new.email, then insert into user log user underscore ID, old underscore email, new underscore email. Values old.user underscore ID, old.email, comma new.email. So and if and dollar. So delimiters. This before update triggers will fire before any update to the users table. If the email is changed, the old email is different from the new email, then the trigger will log the old and the new email values into the user log table. Step 3. Perform an update. Let's update a user email in the user tables. The trigger will automatically log the changes in the user underscore log table. Insert a simple sample user. So insert into user username email and value John Doe john@example.com. Update the user email. This will trigger the logging in the user log table. Update user set email equal to john@example.com where user ID equal to 1. Fourth, checks the log. After performing the update, you can check the user log table to see the log of the email changes. So select star from user log. You should see an entry in the user underscore log table with the column of log ID, user ID, old email, new email, and updated at. So that is the timestamp. So the summary is we created two simple tables, user and user log. We created a trigger that logs any changes to the email fields in the users table into the user underscore log table. The trigger automatically fired when the email was updated and the changes was logged in the user log. Number 11, they asked me store procedure type. So a stored procedure is a prepared SQL code that you can save. So the code can be reused over and over again. So if you have SQL query that you write over and over again, save it as a stored procedure and then just call it to execute it. So create database, that is the company, and then use company, that is the table. So create a stored procedure colon delimiters, create procedure get all employees, begin select star from employees, and delimiter. Call the store procedure by using call get all employees. You can call a store procedure in MySQL using the call statement. The basic syntax: call procedures underscore name, parameter 1, parameter 2, etc. So a store procedure is a pre-written SQL code saved in the database that can be reused multiple times by just calling it. So types of store procedure. First, simple store procedure, no parameter, just execute a fixed query. So delimiter, create procedure, get all employees, begin, select star from employees, and delimiter, call get all employees. Second, in parameter procedure, takes input from the caller. So delimiter, create procedure, get employee ID, in imp ID, int begin, select star from employees where ID equal to imp ID, and delimiter, call get employee by ID 101. Third is the out parameter procedure, returns a value back to the caller. So delimiters, create procedure get total employees, out total int, begin, select count into the total from employees, and delimiter, call get to get total employees $2 employee at total, select at total. Fourth, input parameter procedure, takes input and also returns outputs. So delimiters, create procedure, increase salary, in out salary decimal 10,2, begin, set salary equal to salary plus 5,000, and delimiter. So set at salary at cell equal to 50,000, call increase salary at cell, select at cell. So the summary for the store procedure is type simple, description no parameter, in takes input value, out returns output value, in out both takes input and return output. So advantage of store procedure: reduce repeated SQL code, improve performance, and logic stays as a database level. So this was the interview at a company called Clover Infotech, company location Mumbai, and the interview date was the May 18, 2026. So I will share more interview question with you. Till then, bye.